Hello, 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 hello. How are you? This is Els coming to you from Bemis Crafty Corner. And today I have this, right? So this is meant to look like, you know, those little enamel labels that they used to have back in the day. And, you know, like an address plate or something like that. That is what it is meant to look like. And this technique actually works on a couple of different things. It looks great on flowers if you're going to put them on something. But we're going to be doing it today, making plates. Okay? So, I've seen this done a couple of different ways, usually with tape and special products. But I wanted to figure out a way that we could do it with what we already have. And so this is done with what most of us probably have hanging around the house, you know, in our craft rooms. So we're going to go ahead and get started doing this. And I am going to get out all the supplies. I'll be back in just a moment. Hold on. Okay, supplies. Get out your embossing set. You are going to want your Versamark. You're going to want clear embossing powder, something to dip into, and something to catch it all so you don't make a huge mess here, because this is a little bit messy. You're going to want your die cutting machine, some layered plate dies, you know, whatever you happen to have, and some stickers or rub-ons, not the Tim Holtz ones. They do not work. Because on the Tim Holtz ones, it's like a whole piece that transfers, and what you want is just the images itself to transfer. It's kind of a different type of transfer. So either stickers or transfer, whatever one you want. And it can be anything. You know, if you want it to be this nameplate, it could be that nameplate. Whatever you want it to do, as long as it fits on your piece. And then you're going to want some cardstock, either white or beige, and some heavyweight black. Okay? I'm going to clear some stuff out of the way. I'm going to come back, and we're going to get started on this. I'll be right back. So the first step in the process is going to be to cut our paper small enough to accommodate our dies and fit through our die machine. So I just want some little pieces, so I'm going to go ahead and cut those from here, and that should be fine. And you know what? I'm going to do one of these in beige as well, so you can see how that looks. All right. So once you have your pieces of paper cut, the next part of this is just running it through the machine. So let me grab another set of these. So I'm going to start off with the set that I used originally, which is this set. And I'm just going to put my pieces in here and run that through the machine. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other pieces. Just got that just the right size. Let me grab a pair of scissors so I can cut this piece down. Okay. And this one. Okay. All right, so once you have everything cut, just pick it out, and then I'll be back and we'll move on to the next step in the process. I'll be right back. So the next part of this is actually making the set. I probably should have cut the front of this one out of that because it's just a bigger piece. But we're going to make do with what we have. Okay, so for one of these, we're going to use a rub-on. Now, you can use a sticker, but you want to be careful with using stickers. Let's see. I'm just going to take this number out of here. It's convenient. Okay, so now I'm going to take the number and I'm going to put it in the middle of my plate, right there. That looks good. Leave that there. And then the other one, I'm going to do a stamp. So I'm going to use some Stay-On for that. And you can stamp anything you want. Me, I'm going to stamp Paris. Let me just get that out of there. Let it rest for a second. And then I'm going to pick it up. And I'm going to stamp it onto there. Yep, it'll just fit. Sorry if I get my head in the way. I just want to make sure I get this in here where it needs to be. And normally I would use a stamping mat and all of that, but I'm not doing that today. There we go. Paris. Okay. I'll clean that up later. Let me get this out of the way. So now, the next part of this is to push this down. We want that put on. So I'm just going to use this real quick. Get that on there. And then I'm going to remove the plastic very carefully because I want to make sure that the whole thing is adhered. Perfect. All right. So now I'm just going to adhere these with glue onto the backings. This all has to be one piece. Okay. So, do not use tape on this because you're going to heat it up. And if you use tape, it'll melt. We don't want it to melt. Alright, I'm going to put that down, and I'm going to put this one on there. So we don't want this to melt. Now, if you feel the need to ink, because you're one of those people that has to ink everything, go for it. All right, so now I'm going to let this glue dry, and when I come back, we're going to move on to the next piece. Since I'm going to be heating these up, I'm going to put a very teeny tiny amount of glue on a little scrap of paper, and I folded it at the end, and I'm just going to put that on the back. I can take it off later, okay? Then I'm going to take my clear embossing fluid, powder, and I'm going to put that either into a container or flat on a piece of paper, whatever works best for you. Okay? And then I'm going to take my piece and I'm going to push the front of it down onto my embossing pad. And I want to make sure that I get it completely covered with embossing fluid. Okay? And then I'm going to dip it into the embossing powder. And I want it nicely covered. And then I'm going to heat this up with my heat tool. If I can get my heat tool off of there. So I'm going to go ahead and emboss this really quick. It's going to be a little noisy. I apologize. And it is going to be off camera because I don't want to blow that around. So, heating it up. Ooh. Okay, so I'm going to start heating this up. And when you start to heat it up, it starts to kind of crystallize and go clear. That's the state we want it in. And once it's clear all the way around, it's going to be sticky. So we're going to put it back in the embossing fluid powder. Okay? And make sure it's totally covered and hit it again. Three times is the charm. Now make sure you're tapping this off in between because you don't want it real blobby. And then I'm going to let that set and dry because it needs to cool down and dry. And I'm going to do this one. So this is the one that we stamped, and that's why we used the stays on. Very nice. Now this one, because it's bigger, I am going to just put it in paper. Okay? Now, see the blob? I don't know if you guys can see that, but you see the blob right there? That we don't want. So I'm just going to tap it. Get rid of the blob and heat this up. Back into the embossing powder. Tap it off. I find that 3 times tends to be perfect, but you may want to do it 4 or 5 times. It is up to you. Last time. You do not have to put more of your Versamark in between the layers. All right, I'm gonna let that one cool. I'm gonna clean this mess up and I'll be right back. So now that these are dry, you can take this piece off the back, and it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage back there. But here they are. Here's my little enamel plates. Cool, right? And they have that enamel look. And, you know, if you added a little ink to them before you did them. They might even look a little older. They're not quite flat smooth because, you know, but they do have a nice gloss to them, and they do have a nice look. And you could do this with sparkle if you wanted to, like the sparkly embossing powders, and it would come out really cool. But that's it. That's my little project for this week. So if you're new here, poke a button. Check out my community tab. Go ahead over and look at my Facebook group. If you have any questions, any comments, anything like that, go ahead and throw that in the description box below, you know, in the comment section, or reach out to me through Facebook, whatever. I would love to hear from you. Until I see you again, stay well, my friends. Bye-bye.